Need your daily fix on mixed martial arts?
We're going to kind of recap Bellator 155 from UFC 198.
Who's who?
Kind of a controversial decision.
And who's not?
I couldn't figure out why, and then it hit me.
Well, don't you fret, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your daily dose of MMA podcasts. Everything from the UFC, Bellator Fighting Championships, Extreme Cage Fighting, Invicta Fighting Championships, and so much more. Join us as we talk about some of the biggest names in mixed martial arts. We've got you covered here on Golden State Media Concepts MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, the podcast that covers everything mixed martial arts, and we are finally here. This is International Fight Week, which is actually capped off with UFC 200, which I am incredibly excited about. But before we get there, there's a number of great fights that are going to be going on this week, starting on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's really going to change the true landscape of the mixed martial arts world. And so because of that, one of the things I really wanted to do is to give my pound-for-pound rankings for men's and women's MMA kind of before fight week, because after fight week, I got a strange feeling that this pound-for-pound ranking is going to get mixed up because of the fact that there's so many big, huge fights that are going to go on that's going to really either put someone's place on the pound-for-pound ranking and lock it in stone, or it's actually going to take that person who was in the pound-for-pound ranking and actually move them completely out of the mix. One of those fights that I think of right out the gate, of one of those where it's really important for a person's legacy, is that main event card on UFC 200, which is going to be Cormier versus Jon Jones. This is one of those situations where if Cormier can pull off a win, this changes the entire landscape of the mixed martial arts world as far as who is considered the best fighter in mixed martial arts. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to take a look at the pound-for-pound rankings and give you my take before everything gets shaken up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out by just talking about the guys who didn't quite make the top, my pound-for-pound rankings. Just think of them as honorable mentions. And so I'm going to talk about a few of these guys right out of the gate, and then I'm going to roll right into my pound-for-pound top 10 rankings for men's MMA. Now, as I said, I'm going to start out with the guys that didn't quite make the list, and some of these guys are definitely deserving, but I had my reasons for leaving them out. So first I'm going to talk about these guys. And one of the first guys that could have easily made my list is a guy that's actually going to be fighting this week, and that's TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw has just been one of those guys who's just been really strong, just a top-notch guy who's been he was defending his title, was the Bantamweight champion, and ran off a series of knockout wins, but then recently just lost his lightweight title. And the fact that he lost his title actually ended up kicking him out of that top 10, but he is definitely right on the cusp of getting right back in the thick of things. Another guy that did not make that ranking is a guy who has been, when you think of the featherweight division, Jose Aldo has always been that guy. He's been the UFC featherweight champion for so long. But the last time we saw Jose, he was getting knocked out in record time by Conor McGregor. And because of that, I could not put him in my pound-for-pound rankings. Another gentleman that did not make it, and this is going to make a lot of fans very upset, but the guy that knocked out Jose Aldo, and that's Conor McGregor. I know Conor is a polarizing guy. He's always at the in the thick of the media, but the last time I saw Conor McGregor, and Conor is one of my favorites, and he has been on a tear. But the last time I saw him fighting, he was tapping out from Diaz. And because of that, even though he is still the featherweight champion, his last fight was a loss, and I can't with good conscience actually put him in my pound-for-pound rankings. And the last gentleman that did not make the pound-for-pound rankings, and this was a tough one because it was almost a tie. The number for number 10, the guy that was almost in, but I had to take him out, was Luke Rockhold. And Luke was the middleweight champion. Luke has been just a phenomenal fighter. I had nothing but great things to say about Luke, except for the fact that he just got caught. He got caught in a situation where I feel like he kind of took a guy, and Michael Bisping, a little too light, and he just got caught. But the last time I saw him, he was losing his title as well. And because of that, he did not make my ranking. So when we come back, we've covered the guys that were just on the cusp and totally could get themselves back into the pound-for-pound rankings. But when we come back, we're going to start with number 10. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Mixed Martial Arts Pound-for-Pound rankings, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Okay, and we're back here. And as I said, we're actually covering the pound-for-pound rankings for mixed martial arts. And we covered a few of the guys that didn't quite make the list, like Jose Aldo, TJ Dillashaw, Conor McGregor, Luke Rockhold. And a big reason why they didn't make the list was primarily because of the fact that the last time you saw these guys, they were all coming off of a loss. And so that was the reason why they didn't make the list, and the reason why I left them out. There's one exception to that rule, and the exception to that rule is my number 10 pound for pound guy, and that is which is the former middleweight champion, and that's Chris Weidman. Now, Chris Weidman, yes, the last time we saw Chris, he had lost his title to Luke Rockhold. But if you really think about, one of the best fighters in all of mixed martial arts, first off, he breaks on the scene by beating, in my opinion, the greatest mixed martial arts champion of all time, and Anderson the Spider Silva. He follows it up, with a title defense against Anderson Silva, which, the situation with the freak injury, but a win's a win. And then from there, he's gone on and defended his title and has done nothing but a stellar champion. You look at his record, he's 13-1. He's, when you look at that middleweight division, how many people do you put ahead of him? Because I don't put very many people ahead of him whatsoever. He's he's a force in that division. He's a force in an entire MMA. Even though, he's coming off of a loss, which has been a little bit of a time. He's also been nursing an injury, so he hasn't had a chance to actually get back in the ring and actually kind of reclaim his title or to, make a real statement. That's why I've slid him down a little bit and moved him to the number 10 spot. But at a 13-1 record, other than the situation where he fought very close to Luke Rockhold before he ended up getting caught, name a situation when he hasn't been dominant. I can't think of one. He's always been dominant, and so that's why I make him my number 10 pound-for-pound men's mixed martial arts fighter. Now, when we move on and we start thinking about who's that next person, the next person I think is going to shock a lot of people, and a lot of people may not agree with me. But I went out on a limb on this one, but I took Rumble Johnson. And this is, I know this is going out on a limb. There's guys like Luke Rockhold who we could have actually still slid into that number 9 or number 10 slot. But when I look around and I say, Rumble has been a force. I mean, he's one of the most dangerous guys in all of mixed martial arts. He totally reinvented himself, and he has been on a tear. He at the beginning of the fight with Cormier, he really cracked Cormier and was the first person that really hurt Cormier, in my opinion. And with that, with a 21-5 record, very strong light heavyweight, he's a step behind Jones and Cormier. But the next person up in that light heavyweight division is Anthony Johnson. And so, I look at what he's done. I look at how he's changed his career around and how he's been on a tear, and he's just waiting there for the winner of whoever comes out of this Jones-Cormier situation. He's up next. Now, if Cormier wins, he's gonna have to have another fight where he's gonna have to wait and see how that plays out, because if Cormier wins, there's gonna be a rematch between Jones and Cormier. But if Jones wins, the very next fight for Jon Jones is a very dangerous fight with Anthony Rumble Johnson. So with that, I make him my number 9 pound-for-pound guy. And I really look forward, because he's one of those guys that don't count him out as being someone that has the ability. I'm not saying that he will, but has the ability to actually be the light heavyweight champion. Now, when I move on, I go to another gentleman that may be a bit of a controversial decision to put him in the pound-for-pound rankings, but I'm going to put him in there anyway. That person is Stipe Miocic. And Stipe, he's, first off, everyone's talking about the Cavs winning the championship and taking the championship home to Cleveland. Well, a couple of weeks before that, there was another guy that brought the championship home to Cleveland, and that was Stipe. Stipe walked into the ring against Fabricio Verdum, and actually won and took the heavyweight championship. He's very proud to be from Cleveland. He's put up a really impressive record of 15-2. He has a big title defense going on that's going to be coming up. I think it's in 202 in Cleveland. And for what he's done in the past, with being just such a really tough fighter, taking the heavyweight title belt, I moved him into my number 8 spot at my pound-for-pound rankings. And these three, my first three, where people may think of them as a bit of a controversial decision on my part, but I think these guys are well deserving. They're coming off of big wins. And so I really just, I think they deserve to be in my pound-for-pound ranking. And when you talk about coming off of a big win and coming off an impressive performance, that takes me right to number 7. Number 7 is Stephen Thompson, and that's Wonderboy. Wonderboy came in, he fought against the number 1 fighter in the division, and he looked amazing. He fought a very tactical fight, and he's right there. He's now the number 1 contender for the welterweight division. And when I look up and down that welterweight division right now, I can't see anyone, and I hate to say this, I can't see anyone stopping him right now. The only person that really has a true shot, which I'm looking forward to seeing, is Robbie Lawler and him. But right now, I still give Robbie Lawler. I give Wonderboy the edge over Robbie Lawler just because of his striking and the way styles make fights. I look at this and I say, Wonderboy versus Robbie Lawler. I lean more toward Wonderboy actually becoming champion, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing that fight come up. But right now, I have him as my number 7 pound-for-pound guy. He's 13-1 and has just been on a tear. Has won numerous championships, kickboxing championships. He's been an impressive fighter. I think he's definitely on pace to really give Robbie Lawler a real run for that that welterweight title. The next gentleman who is on my pound-for-pound rankings is Rafael dos Anjos. And Rafael has been he's just been on a tear. He won the lightweight title. He's the total package where, he's great on the ground. He can strike. He can do it all. This is one of those guys that when you look at the pound-for-pound rankings and you say, I want a guy on here that can do everything. Well, this is your guy. He can do it all. 25-7 record. He is the UFC lightweight champion. I'm very impressed with him. He has a big fight coming up this week during fight week. And this is one of those situations where, depending on what happens, this is one of those fights that can really shake up the pound-for-pound rankings here. Now, when you keep on going down the line and you start thinking about, when we're talking about fighters, and it takes me back to what I was saying about Wonderboy. Wonderboy is just, is one of those guys that when you look at the division, who can stop him? Well, the one guy that has a shot at stopping him is my number 5 guy, and that is the welterweight champion himself, Robbie Lawler. Now, the one thing, I do feel like the Robbie Lawler style actually matches, is like the perfect style for Wonderboy. But one of the things you can never question about Robbie Lawler is his heart and his stamina. And he has that ability to stop anyone at any time in a fight. And one of the things that makes him dangerous with Wonderboy is this. This is the reason why I still have him ranked higher, is the fact that when you start looking at Robbie Lawler and you say, okay, let's say he goes down the first round. Let's say he loses second round, third round. Do you count Robbie Lawler out by being down 3 rounds to none? Never. Never, ever do you count Robbie Lawler out. He has the stamina. The longer the fight goes, it seems like the better he gets. And when guys are starting to slow down, openings are kind of coming open. That's when Robbie Lawler is at his best. When you start looking at the potential of a Wonderboy Robbie Lawler match, the one thing that makes Robbie dangerous is the fact that, yes, Wonderboy has speed, he has great footwork, but when you start getting to the championship rounds and you start slowing down, a situation where if Wonderboy slows down, Robbie can get him, and Robbie can take him out. And that's the thing that puts Robbie Lawler, really makes him a tough guy to pick against, is those championship rounds, because he's that guy that can take you to the championship rounds, take you to the deep water, and then drown you. And I mean literally drown you. He is that guy that just so tough. He doesn't dodge anyone. And, and with that, I have so much respect for him for what he's done in mixed martial arts. And so, he is my number 5 guy. Now, when we come back, we're going to start breaking into, that top 4 guys. So those are the guys that are the cream of the crop of the UFC men's division. I'll be back with you in just a few seconds.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Okay, we're back. And, we were talking about the UFC pound for pound rankings. And we were going through and saying, who I believe are the top 10 UFC men in the division. And actually, it's not just UFC. It's actually in all of mixed martial arts. Just so happened these guys are all ended up from the same organization. Now, my number 10 guy was Chris Weidman. Number 9 was Anthony Rumble Johnson. I rode right into Stipe Miocic as at number 8. Next was number 7, which was Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Rafael dos Anjos was number 6. And then my number 5 guy was Robbie Lawler. Now, the next gentleman who I put on this list is Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz just came off of an impressive win over Uriah Faber. It seems like Dominick Cruz, who was out of fighting for quite a while with injuries. He didn't retire, but he was on the shelf. I wasn't expecting him to, really. I expected him to be kind of rusty. I thought he's actually very beatable. And he did something that I've never seen done ever. And that's in boxing. That's in MMA. Dominick Cruz came off of a long, multiple year layoff. And he came back better than ever. He seems like, and that's hard to say, but I really think he is actually now better for being off so long than he was before he went out on injury. Since he's come back, he's always had that style that's always full of energy, very unique. I mean, there's no one that has a style quite like his. His style, I don't even know how to describe it to you, but it's kind of there's a real hard way to catch his rhythm. His rhythm is very sporadic, so it's very hard to time him. But since he's come back, he still always had that very unique style where it's very hard to time him. But his stamina, it seems like it's better than ever. And the next thing that has changed is he has a lot more power. And that's the thing that I think Uriah Faber was not prepared for, is after fighting him the first 2 times, I think Uriah knew what kind of guy he was facing, knew, what kind of power he was expecting. And I don't think Uriah was really worried about that. But this new guy that he got in the ring with was just a lot stronger, a lot more powerful, with a lot of stamina, and he was still just as hard to hit as ever before. And I think Uriah just wasn't prepared for this new guy. I think Uriah had prepared for the guy he had fought 2 other times before, but this guy is not the same guy anymore. And when I look at him and I look at the division, at the Bantamweight division, and I say, who's going to take the Bantamweight title from him, or who can contend with the Bantamweight title? Right now, he's the guy. And it's going to be hard for anyone to take that title from him. Unless you're looking at putting together a super fight between him and Demetrious Johnson, there's no one else that's going to give him any trouble. I just don't see it happening. And with that, I make him our number 4 pound for pound fighter. And and the way things are going to shake out, I could definitely see him moving up the pound for pound rankings. Now, my next guy that I am going to put into my pound for pound rankings, a lot of people have them on their pound for pound list, but the one thing they don't have is they don't have this guy ranked high enough. My number 3 pound for pound guy is Daniel Cormier. And, if you've heard any of my pound for pound rankings before, this is not new. I've had Daniel Cormier in my pound for pound top 3 for a long, long time. And the reason why I say this is the man's record is 17-1. He is the UFC light heavyweight champion, because he's way too big to be the lightweight champion. But he is the UFC lightweight champion. And other than Jon Jones, name a heavyweight, name a light heavyweight, I don't care who it is that has actually, has beaten him. You can't find anyone that's beaten him. Name someone who's given him really a tough go. Gustafsson fought him kind of tough, but in the end, he was too much for Gustafsson. He was too much for Rumble Johnson. He's been too much for everybody not named Jon Jones. And, a lot of people don't realize, you have a guy who fought in the heavyweight division, looked amazing, then dropped down because Cain Velasquez is one of his best buddies, moved down to the light heavyweight division. Only thing he did was dominate the light heavyweight division, other than Jones, and become the light heavyweight champion. And since Jones has been out with some issues, he has not only won the light heavyweight title, but he has defended it against the best of the best, and he still looks good. If he wins this week against Jon Jones, his legacy and the way everyone looks at him is going to change. He instantly jumps to possibly even the top of the list. But he has a situation where if he wins, his legacy starts. That's when everyone starts looking at Cormier as, is he one of the best of all time? But if he loses, he falls out the picture. He literally falls out the picture. He has so much to lose with this fight. It's nothing but bad blood. He's coming off of a loss that was just heartbreaking for him. And he knows that without this win, and I saw an interview that he did on ESPN where he's talking about this fight means everything to him. It means everything for his legacy. It means everything for his heart and his mind, as far as it would be hard for him to say he's had his entire career and he cannot touch Jon Jones. He's been able to touch everybody. But if he does not win here, this will be devastating to him. But when you look at everyone else and you look at what Daniel Cormier has done, he's looked at everyone, he's fought everyone, and he's beaten everyone. Let's see if he can come back through and pull it out with Jon Jones. But right now, he is definitely my number 3, with the possibility of being anywhere from moving up to, depending on how impressive, let's say he wins. Let's say if he wins, and depending on how impressive, he could actually be considered the number 1 pound for pound guy. But if he loses, he could drop completely out of the picture for the pound for pound ranking. He could drop completely out of the picture for contending for the light heavyweight title. This fight means everything, and that's one of the things that concerns me with Daniel Cormier is, in this particular case, he has probably more to lose than Jon Jones. If Jon Jones loses, he has a situation where it's like, okay, yes, I lost, but I've been dealing with a lot of things, and I took him light. Let's do that third fight. But with Cormier, if he loses, there's no excuses. It's just over. And I hate to say that about a guy who's just been a great ambassador, a super nice guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. I'm really looking forward to seeing this fight because this is one of those fights that you'll remember for years. But back to what I was getting at with the pound-for-pound rankings, my number 3 guy is Daniel Cormier, and we'll shake out the rest of this pound-for-pound ranking pretty much this week. All right? And so we're going to move on, and we're going to move on to our number 2 guy. Now, the number 2 pound-for-pound ranking guy is Mighty Mouse, and that is Demetrious Johnson. The Flyweight champion has just been nothing but a great ambassador. It's unfortunate that he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. I could have easily, and thought about it, made him the number 1 pound-for-pound ranking, and probably on most pound-for-pound rankings nowadays, he's considered the number 1 guy. No one's been able to stop him. No one's been able to figure him out. I don't know why he's not a bigger star, because this guy has talent everywhere. He's not boring. He's fun to watch. He's just an amazing dynamo of a fighter. He can take you down. He can submit you. He can knock you out. He can do it all. This is, in my opinion, in all of men's mixed martial arts, the most complete fighter in the entire mixed martial arts. And I'm just not talking about UFC. I'm talking about Bellator, One Championship, World Series. The most complete fighter in all of mixed martial arts is Demetrious Johnson. And I've yet to find anyone that's going to take his title from him. He's going to have that title a long time. The only way I could see his road getting changed or him getting upset is if they talk him into going up in weight and fighting Dominick Cruz. Now, there's a fight that you could put together, a super fight, which a lot of people are starting to push for. I don't want to see that fight. I know a lot of people would be disappointed in me in saying that, because I think when you're looking at Demetrious Johnson, you're looking at greatness. I want him to stay in that flyweight division, and I want to see how long he can hold that flyweight title. Now, if anyone wants to come down to the flyweight division and fight him, I'm okay with that. But I don't want to see him go up in weight. I want to see him break Anderson Silva's record, and I want to see how long he can actually hold on to this record, because it is something. He is doing something that is special, that people don't realize it's special. But when it's all said and done, when you look at his career and you look at the string of wins that he's putting together, I think people are missing out on one of the greatest fighters of all time. And he can actually submit that with one of the most impressive records of all time. So, but with that, he is my number 2 pound-for-pound men's mixed martial arts fighter. And with that, I think everyone kind of knows who is the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. And that number 1 pound-for-pound fighter is Jon Bones Jones. And this is that situation where we were talking about before, where you have a fight going on this week on International Fight Week at UFC 100, where you're looking at the main event. The main event, which is Cormier, which is my number 3 fighter, pound for pound, against the number 1 fighter, which is Jon Jones. Cormier, other than Jones, no one's been able to touch him. Jones, no one has been able to touch him. The toughest fight he's ever had was Alexander Gustafsson. But I got a strange feeling that this fight here could be the new toughest fight of his career, because I think Cormier has so much to lose, and Cormier knows it. I could see Cormier making this a much tougher fight. I think Cormier is going to try to take it and make it a very rough ground and pound fight where it's taking it to the ground a lot. I think Jones is going to be tested. His wrestling skills are going to be tested. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this fight. but no one has been able to figure out Jon Jones. Jon Jones fights differently than everyone else. He's strong like a heavyweight. He's agile like a middleweight. He has all the skills, and he's young. He's still getting better. He has, he's long, he's lanky, but he has wrestling skills. He has ground skills. The elbows, the knees, the oblique kicks. He does it all. Jon Bones Jones is one of those fighters where, just like I was saying with Demetrious Johnson, if Jones gets past Cormier and then follows up Cormier by beating Rumble Johnson, you're looking at a situation where possibly everyone's saying the greatest, not just light heavyweight, but maybe the greatest fighter in UFC history could end up being Jon Bones Jones, because if he wins those two fights, and you look at the rankings in the light heavyweight division, he could run off a string of wins that could put his record out of this world. He could actually run off a number of wins where, his legacy is, his record and his legacy is just locked in stone. Now, and he's coming up with a really tough fight. He's just a really tough fight. But this is that fight that's going to cement his legacy. If he comes into this fight with Cormier and he comes out of this and he looks amazing and impressive, no one's going to question the pound for pound ranking. He's going to be number one. But what people are going to start questioning is he the greatest of all time? This fight here could actually, in my opinion, if he comes through this clean, then you're starting to put him up against, is he the greatest of all time? Which right now you're looking at Anderson Silva, you're looking at George St. Pierre, and you're looking at Jon Bones Jones as the three greatest of all time, in my opinion. And so when you start looking at these guys, and I don't put Gracie Hoyce is the guy that I put in my greatest of all time, but in a different wing. That's the founding fathers kind of wing. It was before the development of mixed martial arts. So I put him in a different category. But modern day mixed martial arts, I look at it as Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, who is itching to come back and has said he is going to be coming back. And then we have Jon Jones. I have, with this win, if he wins and looks impressive, I think that's when everyone's going to start wondering, is he truly the greatest of all time? Now, that concludes my men's pound for pound rankings, which and I'm going to recap again, and I'm going to touch on I'll touch on it just a little bit more in a little bit more detail. But when we're looking at my pound for pound ranking, the first thing I did was my honorable mentions, which was T.J. Dillashaw, Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, and Luke Rockhold. Those guys were all tied for number 11. I could have easily put any of those guys in number 10 or number 9, but I didn't. I went with a guy who I thought was just such a strong fighter and has proven himself. And so my number 10, I went with Chris Weidman. Another gentleman I put who I think has just really reinvigorated his career and has looked great as Anthony Johnson. We had to put in number 8, which is the brand new heavyweight champion as Stipe Miocic. I followed that up with a guy who's just been on a tear, who looks so amazing with great hands, great feet, and just came off of just an impressive win. I came in with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at number 7. I rode right into one of the most complete fighters in MMA, which is the UFC lightweight champion, and that's Rafael dos Anjos. And then from there, I went with the UFC welterweight champion, which was Robbie Lawler. From there, I went right into the UFC bantamweight champion, which was Dominick Cruz, who had just came off of a big rivalry win against Uriah Faber. We have the UFC light heavyweight champion at Daniel Cormier. Roll that right into Demetrious Johnson, the UFC flyweight champion at number 2. And then our number 1 pound-for-pound men for men's MMA was the interim UFC light heavyweight champion, which was Jon Bones Jones. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking out my pound-for-pound ranking. You can, give me your comments on, you can go to our Twitter page and check us out and give us your comments. You're welcome to give me your pound-for-pound men's ranking. I would love to hear from you guys. But with that, I really thank you. Like I said, always, you can find us at GSMCpodcast.com. You can download us on iTunes. You can find us also on Stitcher and SoundCloud. And then you can always reach out to us by Facebook and Twitter. I definitely check the Twitter account quite often. I try to stay on top of that. So if you have a question or have a comment, it's always easy to reach out to me by just going to the Twitter page. And with that, thank you, and I'll see you guys at UFC 200. Good night.